What is it like to live with albinism? How can you find confidence even when you're different from those around you?
We will discuss this and more today on Real Family Talk.
Welcome to Real Family Talk. On today's episode, we're having an important conversation about living with albinism. For many, albinism is just a genetic condition, but for those who have it, it shapes their daily experiences in ways most people don't realize.
From misconceptions to real-life challenges, our guest, Sonia Kennedy Brown, is here to share her journey, the obstacles she has faced living with albinism, and how she's made it her life mission to help others in their challenges. Sonia, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So let's just get right into it. When did you first realize that you were different than other children?
As soon as I can remember as a little girl, very early in life, because I realized it because my parents protected me from the sun and they wanted me to wear hats and other protective means because the sun affects the skin because of the lack of the pigment. And so at that early stage, I realized I was different.
Yeah, and so did you ask your parents, did they say to you, you have this condition?
Mm-hmm. My parents were very good at explaining it to me, you know, what they knew at the time. And of course, my dad and mom had this big book they call the Modern Medical Counselor, and it tells about these things. And so they explained that it was just myself and my brother were born without pigment that mom and dad had, like the other children, and there needs to be a protection to keep us safe. So they did explain.
So you felt very loved in your home.
Oh, we were so loved because they decided when I was born, my mom cried when I was born actually because there were other albinos in the community who were treated terribly. But they decided they were going to love us and cherish us just like all the other children.
What great parents.
How did you navigate the different social contexts back then? We're talking about church, school, community. Can you tell us a little bit about each of these environments and how you were able to manage?
Church was fine. I had many family and friends there, a few friends, and many family members. So I didn't find the ostracism or social challenges at church. I participated. I loved reciting, memorizing text and promises. I participated in different services, and I felt welcomed. School was a different story. It was devastating. And actually, the general community, even before I went to school, they were I felt demoralized. I was called names. And I don't know if I should mention they have a name that came over with the diaspora, because I'm from Jamaica originally.
Yes.
And so, Dundus. That's a derogatory name that's meant to put you down.
Wow.
And this was used in the community, the children?
Everybody,
the
children,
adults?
And as I was walking down the road, I would hear the word. I was not called Sonia because Sonia means wisdom. My second name is Rose. It means wise. Beautiful. Sonia means wise.
Yes.
Rose means beautiful. Kennedy, I always say, means status, riches. But I claim myself as a child of the King of heaven and a family who loves me. But when you're called other names and your wise, beautiful name is degraded, yellow, raw, fire, all kinds of names, all kinds of derogatory names. I mean, the list goes on. So you felt denigrated.
How did you manage in the community? What kinds of responses you would have? How would you feel? How would you manage?
I would, one thing I did, and up until now I still do it, you can ask the family, I have a way of, I walk very fast. Up until now. And even when I went to nursing school, the supervisor would say, Sonia, slow down. But I would run from the abusers. and I would cry. And I would go home and tell mom again and again. And my brothers and sisters, should I say it now? They would fight for me.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, they would really fight for me. In school, children were whipped to protect me.
And they were whipped by the teachers? Or
My siblings.
or by your siblings? Tell me exactly what would happen at school. How was the abuse taking place? In the classroom?
they
in the
rejected-
playground? Yes.
Everywhere.
On the playground,
Yes.
nobody would play with me. So I was alone, except for my siblings. Very few friends. But you want a whole social acceptance.
Of course.
Some of the teachers were not very sensitive to my needs because, you see, albinos are visually impaired
Right.
because of the lack of pigment in our eyes. Our skin is lacking pigment, and so you don't have the protection from the sun, and because of the lack of pigment in our eyes, you have a little bit of developmental challenge in the eyes. So you have nystagmus, you have strabismus. The strabismus is cross eyes.
Yes.
Nystagmus is the shaking because you're trying to accommodate all this light
Right.
that's going in your eyes.
And in Jamaica, the sun is
Very
bright.
hot. Yeah.
Yes.
So you see the shaking, but I don't feel it.
Right.
But my eyes are accommodating. But people laugh because of the cross eyes and everything. It was just very difficult.
That must have been very, very difficult for you as a child.
It was.
Even though your parents provided and your siblings a very safe space at home. you
And even at
still-
church.
And at
And at
church,
church, yes.
you still felt the social ostracization
Oh, yes.
in the community.
Oh, yes.
Now, do you think it's because, not to justify bad behavior, but do you think people feared the difference as they often do in other instances?
Yes, they did. Because it is believed that albinos are possessed with evil spirits.
Okay.
I've
And it-
heard that. You know,
Yes.
there are all types of stigmas and negative connotations.
And they also believe that we are sexual
Perverts? Or
no.
promiscuous?
No, that they can get sexual favors from us to heal social diseases.
I see.
Wow.
So it's not a favor, really.
Yes.
Right.
You're raped.
Yeah.
Right.
You are abused in many ways because they feel that you can heal the AIDS and the other social diseases. So many have died because of that. They get the social diseases from the rapists and everything.
Thank you so much. It's time for us to take a short break, but when we return, we'll continue talking with Sonia Kennedy Brown about living with albinism. Stay with us. Today on Real Family Talk, we are talking with Sonia Kennedy Brown about her journey living with albinism.
That's right. We talked about her childhood, the challenges that she faced, and at some point, she ended up moving from Jamaica to Canada. Sonia, tell us about that transition. Tell us about the changes. Were there any differences when you came to Canada as opposed to what you experienced at home in Jamaica?
Socially, there were differences because in Canada you have people from different countries of the world, especially Europeans
Right.
and the Canadians. They did not see my color, my lack of color.
Right.
Yes, that's a
They
problem.
saw me as a part of the society.
Caucasian.
A Caucasian, they
Yeah.
did. And so many of them responded to me that way. So
And by now you were an adult, right?
Yes, I
And
was.
You were
I was
already
in-
practicing nursing.
Yes, I was. And so they treated me that way. So I felt accepted in those settings. But when I was among people from my country or other countries or
From the Caribbean?
the Caribbean and actually the other countries like the African countries,
Right.
I was ostracized. I was denigrated.
Because
Shunned?
those same old stigmas
Shunned.
and
Yes.
and
Stereotypes,
misconceptions and stereotypes came
Existed.
back because they
Yes.
could tell that you were
Yes.
African of African descent. Yeah.
Yes. And so it placed me in a confusing situation because I loved the acceptance.
Right.
I really sometimes wanted to say who I was if I was asked the question, but I didn't at times because I didn't want to refer to myself as albino. I hated it to just call the name.
Right.
So I would feel inside very guilty about, and if someone asked me, your accent sounds Jamaican, but you look European or Canadian, I would give them a history of Jamaica.
Yeah.
I would say Jamaica was owned by the Spanish, then the English, and we're very mixed and everything like that, and I'm gone. Instead of saying I'm an albino, I wouldn't disclose my distraction, where I came from, because I felt more accepted among the Canadians.
Yes.
And so it made a difference for me.
Yes.
In every aspect of my life.
I'd be interested in knowing churches in Canada. You have a lot of Jamaican churches. Did you go to a Jamaican church?
I went to a Jamaican church.
Was it any different at church? Because you said that in Jamaica, church family was supportive and accepting. How was it in Canada?
There were some instances which were difficult in church in Canada because nobody dated me. That was one of my drawbacks. Because you see, I have many brothers and sisters, and with albinism, because if my parents had stopped at, say, number 6, they wouldn't know they have the genes.
Yeah.
But I'm number 7.
Okay.
And then, so many of them married with children, going to graduations and weddings, and here I am. Nobody wants me. So I felt rejected because there were many young men in the churches in Canada.
But no one looked at you? No one paid attention?
Not for good intention. Even some of those in the church would have abused me, or maybe I felt abused or was abused because of
your condition.
My condition. And I was not seen as
a
valuable person.
Right.
And so some people appreciated me, some didn't. And so it still left me with that feeling of rejection.
Yeah. So at any point, did you think about just going to a predominantly Canadian European church?
No, I didn't, because I wanted to go where my family was.
Right.
My parents were there, some siblings were there at one point, and I wanted to go there. But, just a couple of years ago after I wrote the book, I will share this with you. When someone said to me, I wouldn't have eaten from you until I read your book because I consider you nasty, and I wouldn't wash my dish in the same dish that yours is being washed in. This was a prayer leader in a church.
And someone actually said that to you?
To me.
Yes.
But now she said she was healed of that.
Once she read the book.
Once she read the book, and I do presentations on not just albinism, people who are challenged with any aspect of life, abuse, any type of abuse. Right. So she heard my presentation, and she also read my book, and then she was sorry that she said it, but she confessed it to me and asked if she could pray with me. So that was different. But those are people in church.
Yeah, I think I have to say at this juncture that some things don't need to be said.
Or even if you feel that you should edit yourself.
Please forgive me, for some ways in which I may have mistreated you. But if anyone is listening to this, there are just some things you don't need to say.
Yeah, but the fact that it was said to me.
And the fact that she said it to you. But praise God that you have such a forgiving and compassionate spirit, because you understood that your task was to educate people. Right? So how did your faith play a role in helping you overcome some of the challenges and the ways in which you experience being marginalized throughout your life?
My faith. There was a time when my faith, I did not hold fast to my faith because I was angry with God. I felt that he could have done better in my creation, because when I read Psalm 139, verse 14, it said, you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And I cried out to God and said, if I am fearfully and wonderfully made, why did you make me an albino to go through all of this? Yeah. But I said it, and I was fearful that God would hit me down at that time.
And he's not that kind of God.
No, he's not. Because at the same time, when I began to heal, that was one of the same verses I went back to.
Absolutely.
And I looked in the mirror and I said, God, you're grateful. Wow. I'm grateful to you. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Because now I stopped looking at the pain that was thrown at me and the internalized feeling of rejection. I started getting rid of it because of those promises. Because God said in Isaiah 49, I've engraved you on the palm of my hands.
right. Yes.
My walls, your walls are continually before me.
That's
And I
right.
saw myself as a child of God. So that helped in my healing
Precious.
and growth.
Yeah.
I saw
And
in my...
before you were knit in your mother's womb,
Yes,
he
ma'am.
knew you.
He knew me.
Yes.
So those promises made a difference in my journey as I grew to know that I was loved by God, and it didn't matter what the public said.
Right.
So bottom line, your faith still played a role. And even though you went through a very difficult time, the faith came in and kicked in to give you the hope
Yeah.
and the feeling of being valued
Yes.
Yeah.
by God
Yes.
and by others
Yes.
because of that faith.
Yeah.
And I
because
think-
of my faith.
Yeah, and I think what's powerful is that you cried out to God.
I did.
Because you had a God. So God he's a big God.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
and his feelings don't get hurt very easily.
No.
Right? So it's okay for us to cry out to him and say why, you know. He's probably not going to give you a why, but he's going to show you in his word. And
Right.
praise God.
Right.
Psalms 139:14, fearfully and wonderfully
fearfully and
made.
wonderfully.
When we return, we will talk about Sonia's life-changing book and how it was a catalyst in turning her life around. Stay with us.
We're back on Real Family Talk with Sonia Kennedy Brown, author of the book Silent Tears, as she shares her journey about living with albinism.
You know, it is often said that trials are God's way of refining us and drawing us closer to Him. Through trials, we can also help others who are experiencing similar difficulties in life. Sonia, you've made it your duty to help people who are facing challenges. And through this, you wrote a book, Silent Tears. Can you show your book? Yes, Silent Tears. Tell us about the book. What inspired you to write it?
My brother, who is after me, an albino also, he passed away. But we decided to write. We were so abused and we were hurting, and we decided to write a book together so the world could know that we had value. We were people that God made that had values. But he died. But then years later, I decided to, actually before, I used to just write poems and short, like diaries
Yes.
with my experiences. And as I compiled them, I must admit, I showed it to my brother, Dr. Kennedy, and his wife, Dr. June Kennedy. And when they looked at it, they said, you should produce a book. It was very difficult to produce because I had to now put everything on paper that was in my heart. But that inspired me to write it. But as I wrote, I found that my heart was relieved of some of the pain.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'll take that from you.
Tell us a little bit about how that relieved the pain that you were having. What about writing the book helped you to relieve that pain?
As I wrote, it's like a dam broke
Okay.
because my emotions were so affected, so backed up.
Yeah.
But as I wrote, I claimed God's promises and looked at my whole life and the progress of growth in my experience, I realized that I had value. A lot of that came from writing the book.
Of course.
As the pain was released, my value level increased.
Right.
And then I could share with others at the same time. And when I began to share with others some of what I was experiencing and they shared with me, it was like, wow.
Yes.
You realized you were not the only one going
No.
through some of these emotions.
No. And it was also that my experience helped them to release their pain. So the book was a release for me.
Yeah.
And a
but
release
it
for
was-
them.
And it was a release for them.
So it was cathartic
It
Yeah,
was
it was-
cathartic.
for you
And-
Yeah.
and for those
And
who read it.
therapeutic.
And
Yes.
therapeutic.
And therapeutic.
Yeah.
And then it also, did it make you recognize how resilient you had been?
It did, because I never knew I had that much in me to help others on their journey, and that I had so much to give, to grow. You know, I was kind of stuck for a while in life, I must say, because when I finished my master's at Andrews University, I'm a bright girl.
You are, and we can tell.
And my brother,
very
especially
eloquent.
Dr. Kennedy, he said, Sonia, go on and do your PhD. I said, I'd never do my PhD if I don't get an MRS. I was so upset at the time because I thought in an Adventist institution, I would pick up a husband who would cherish me.
Yeah.
But when I left without it, I was so angry. I said, no PhD if I don't get an MRS. But then came the point where it didn't matter anymore. I said to God, whether I get an MRS or anything like that, or anybody values me, I am valuable to you.
Amen.
Use me to glorify your name.
And for those who are watching who may have missed your MRS, that means a Mrs. It means that
You want to be married.
you wanted to be
I
married.
want to be married.
Yes,
But
yes.
God gave me a husband
Yes.
later in life. I don't know if I should mention it now.
absolutely
can.
It was my high point. Because you see, I just didn't want a husband just like everybody else. I wanted a husband to make me quote unquote normal.
Yes.
Somebody standing beside me,
Yes.
somebody valuing me, somebody affirming for me in society. And but I found someone who was a Christian, who, when he met me, he said to me, Sonia, I could never hurt you, because if I hurt you, I could never look in your dad's eye. And he also said, when I said, Roy, are you going to marry me without this color because I've been so abused because of the lack of it? He said, Sonia, I'm not marrying the paper that wrapped the package. It's what's inside,
Yeah.
the, package that
Yeah.
counts.
Yeah.
I've never forgotten those words.
And there's something that you said that I want to capitalize on, and that is, he said to you, he could never hurt you because he could never look at your father in his eyes. I think people need to understand that we are children of God, and men and women need to understand that we're children of God. So when they hurt their mate, they're hurting the child of God. And as a father, I'm a father and I have a daughter and she's married. Can you imagine how protective I am of my daughter and how perhaps upset I would be if I thought she was being mistreated? Can you imagine how God feels when his children are mistreated? And he can see everything. You can't hide it from him.
Girl.
So if you're watching, I'm saying, watch out how you're treating God's child.
Right.
Because he's watching and he cares for his child.
Yeah.
He cares
And
for all
all
of
my
us.
siblings,
Yes.
all of them, were there for me to get me to
write this book.
write the book.
Yes.
But it was important that I do it.
Yes.
Right, absolutely. And I think what's powerful is how you are now helping others.
Yes, I am.
And so what are you doing intentionally to help others? You shared with us during the break that you are doing seminars. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, even before I started the seminars, after I started selling the books, I saw an article in the Adventist World about ADRA helping albinos in Tanzania. They would take them from their parents because they were being
Abused,
killed and
yes.
abused, and limbs were missing
And
sacrificed, all kinds of issues. So ADRA International built us 3 schools in Tanzania. I think it was 2013, and they put high walls and gates so people couldn't get in, and took the children so they could educate them, teach them how to dress, to wear hats.
Take care of them,
And
yes.
take care of them.
Praise
so
God
I used
for
to
ADRA.
send, I
Yeah.
know, from the sales of the book, I've sent several $100s, maybe thousands, to ADRA. And from my own pocket.
Yeah.
ADRA International to help the children in Tanzania. I've gone around doing seminars on different platforms, to, not just about albinism, about marital abuse, people who are raped and hiding, having children from rape and can't even look at their children. They talk to me when they have never spoken to anybody else to get some healing. Young people who are challenged. I do go to the CNIB, which is the Canadian Institute of the Blind, to get magnifying glasses because we're impaired.
Right.
I enlarge everything on my iPad, computer, everything,
It's hard to see.
It's
yes.
hard to see.
Yes.
Yes, and light bothers us. But I get high-powered magnifiers for albinos. Send them to the States, to Canada. As soon as I hear of a family member or friend having an albino, I will engage with them, and I will provide them with a magnifier if they need it.
Yes.
And but I do a lot of praying with people, one-on-one counseling with people and just encouraging people, making a cup of soup for someone, and because I can't drive because of my vision, I'll take the bus and take it to them. So I do a lot of outreach ministry.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say, Sonia, is that God is using you as an instrument of His peace, of His blessing to people who are in dire need
Yes.
of acceptance,
Yes.
of knowing that they're valuable to God.
Yes.
What an amazing story. And the fact that you thought you were a castaway. And
thought
yet
so.
God has used you in a marvelous way
Yes.
to bless people
Yes.
and to bless the world.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate you sharing so openly your story and your ministry.
Yes.
Now, thank you. God bless you.
Thank you for having me.
In every time of need, God has offered a sure help. As it says in Hebrews 4:16, let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace to help in time of need.
Thank you for watching Real Family Talk. Join us again when we'll share more about strengthening families and inspiring hope. See you next time.